MT, greetings. I bet you can see what's going on in here. I saw the biggest Armadillidium gestroy ever, and I wanted to show it to you. So I'm gonna do that. Let's see. Just a second. Gonna zoom out a little bit. You can see there's some wee ones, some wee gestroy milling about there on this wood. I love the fact that gestroy doesn't take long after they emerge from the marsupium to have adult coloration approximately. I mean, it's not exactly, but pretty much the same color and pattern as the adults. Not quite as much contrast because they're not as dark, but it's pretty neat. I mean, look at that little one right there. It's so fun to see that. So welcome, 503 Random T, Gemma K, Young Lad, Verge Reptiles, Frank to Tank. Let's see if we can find that huge gestroy, shall we? I'm excited about it. Okay, does everybody hear me? I see Tennyson joined in as well. Laura Philippe, Turnip, Chet, and Theropod Hunter. Cool. We've got 15 people here and 8 likes so far that I can see on my end at least. So we're off to a pretty good start. Okay, I'm going to dig around for a second, see if I can find that, not dig around, but you know what I mean. I'm going to look around, see what I can find, and see if I can show you that large gestroy. Oh, there it is. Look at that. That is gigantic. Can you believe the size of this gestroy? I was flabbergasted when I saw it. Actually, I should tell you the story behind this. Oh, awesome, Tennyson. I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. So thank you. That's good to hear. Super excited. That's going to be a video. That's going to be fun. So check out the workmanship on this thing. Craftsmanship, what's the word that I'm looking for? The expertise that went into this. Look at that face. Look at the eyes. These antennae are awesome. And this is from, on Instagram, she goes by Brittany/Britty. And I was able to meet her at the Clint's Reptile Academy, and when I did a guest appearance there, which was really fun. It was almost 2 months ago now, like 6 weeks-ish ago. And met her there, and she made me this cool little one. This cool little isopod on very short notice, and I thought that is awesome. And then she said, I'd make you something, you know, let me know which species you want me to do, and I'll make you something with the colors and everything that I had, because that was just what she had on hand in a very short time. But she said, which was awesome anyway, but she said, I'll make you a gestroy. When I asked for one, she said, yeah, I could totally do that. I have the right yarn, and made this amazing thing. So I love it. So there you go. That is the biggest gestroy I've ever seen. And I'm super excited about it. I need to give it a name. If you have a good idea for a name for this amazing gestroy, let me know. I just love the pattern. It's like perfect. It looks perfect. All right, so let's see. What is everybody saying here? I'm going to zoom in on the actual real gestroy for a minute. Going to give them a little bit more calcium and some bee pollen to munch on, and check the chat out. So who else is here that I missed? I see Laura Yodeski's here. Joined in. Welcome, G.E. Vic. Brian Davison, welcome back. Let's see, Atypical Girl, Laura Taylor, Sean Meister, Rupert. Actually, I like that. I have a chicken puppet named Rupert, but I could totally see that being a gestroy name. Okay, so I'm going to give them a little bit of bee pollen in their little shell dish there, which you probably didn't actually even see on camera. And we'll switch these out for a different isopod. Let me grab one. Let's see. I am trying to minimize the time when you're looking at nothing. You know, I'm conscious of that fact. I can't always make that perfect. But here's an example of isopods can't climb smooth surfaces in most cases. At least most isopods in the hobby can't. But when they're dirty, they're no longer smooth for the isopods. And there's an example. There's a little bit of dirt on the plastic there, and they are climbing it. So keep that in mind. Smooth surfaces only applies to surfaces that are smooth on the macro scale. You get them scratched up or dirty, you get water scale on them, something like that. All bets are off. Isopods could quite likely climb them. Here, let's see who else is here. Richie Rich joined in. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody. Who else has joined in? There's Mirva. Okay. Oh no, Sean, you got it as well. Now what I want to show you here, I was looking at this. This is my my Scaber piebald that Derek Niehaus sent me. I love these. These are awesome. Very cool looking. There's a couple more specimens right there. I've seen them breeding in here and whatnot. They're doing their thing. Oh, I just accidentally tossed one. But here is a problem that I noticed that I'm going to have to address. You can see there's slime mold, dry slime mold, on the side of the enclosure there. And I saw two of these piebalds climbing on it because it can climb smooth surfaces and they can climb the slime mold. And I know the name of the, when slime mold dries, there's a specific name for it that it uses when it's in its kind of diapause phase and it can sit there and be inactive. You can send it to somebody in the mail and they can reactivate it and whatnot. I just can't remember the name right now. But I need to make sure that that's not causing these to escape. I would hate to lose some of these. These are such a cool, hate to lose any of them. They're such a cool isopod morph. Not terribly common and not, I need to get them really going. I need to get this colony really going. So I can't do counterproductive things like let them climb out. I'm going to add some leaves now. Looks like they've got plenty of, they still have a decent amount of leaf litter in there that's like the well-rotted stuff. And I'm going to add like a top dressing of the dry stuff. Ooh, sorry. Whew, that was a mess. Okay. Top dressing of the dry stuff. And I've noticed that the slime molds show up more in the newer cultures. Like there's not that many in here because it's a newer culture. And I see more of them in situations like this. But they definitely need more of the dry leaves. The more leaf litter in there, really, to a point, the better. Once it gets tall enough that they can climb out of it, that's not the same thing. So there we go. Yeah, slime mold is interesting stuff, and it can move in some of its life stages, which is its climbs. So I'm gonna pull another one out here. I noticed this one totally needs new leaves added. One of the problems that I have with being sick and all is that I got a little behind and I'm trying to catch up. It's been kind of nasty trying to catch up from all these issues, being sick and the incredible fatigue that came with it. So I am behind. You can see they've eaten almost all the leaf litter in here, and that's not good. This is Cubaris marina papaya. There you can see there's plenty of little babies in there. The colony is not doing horribly. It's doing fine, but there's not enough leaf litter. Yep, leaf collecting season has started, for sure, over here already. Our Kentucky yellowwood is dropping leaves like crazy in the backyard already. It's the first one to start in the season, and in August it had already started. I mean, it's taken a quantum leap forward since it became September, just in the past couple days, honestly. But before that, it was losing leaves. It was yellowing in the middle of August. So leaf collecting season is on here. Yes, the fatigue is real. Yeah, I always treat my leaf litter in some way to keep the hitchhikers out, and I haven't had many problems with it. The only thing, and I can't even really attribute this to leaf litter, is I got Pyralis farinellis moths that may or may not have come in on leaf litter. So there we go. The papayas are happy. I'm gonna grab something else here. What's next? Okay, so let me put these papayas down. I'm gonna grab some. I have some others right here, so you don't have to wait too long. Some dark pods. Okay, we could probably do that. There's a mixture of pods. Some are dark, some are light. So I've been listening to. I love to listen to lots of different videos, and I don't watch YouTube videos as much as I listen to them. I listen to them more than I watch them. That's how it works out, because I often have to do things, working on maintenance or whatever while I'm doing that. And one thing that I learned about Santa Lucia after I made a video about Santa Lucia from Roach Crossing Weekly General Live Stream, or the Roach Wiggle. See what he did there with the WGL from Weekly General Live Stream? It's the Roach Wiggle. Love that. Anyway, he was talking about how it appears that when there is stock from mainland North America in Armadillidium vulgare, you end up often with these yellow markings like the one that's right in the middle of the screen. These increased yellow markings. This is Santa Lucia. You can see there's a lot of variability in it, but it's probably not pure Santa Lucia, even if it's descended from some Santa Lucia stock, because it has all those yellow markings on it, which is very sad, because I love Santa Lucia and would love to have some pure stock, but there may not be any more in the hobby. Got some really cool stuff in here, but what this may just be is a gem mix with a lot of Santa Lucia ancestry at this point, because if anything was added to it beyond the Santa Lucia locality, then by definition it is a gem mix, which is sad. Just because it means we've lost the pure line stock, if that's the case. I mean, I have lost pure line stock. I never had it to begin with, is what I should say. And it may be hard to find in the hobby anymore, which sounds horrible, sounds sad, but let's see. I'm going to add a little bit more leaf litter to these guys. I think they need a bit more. Looks like they might need a little bit refreshing of their calcium. There's a lot in here, but they tend to burrow quite a bit. I don't know if, all Vulgata will burrow some. I feel like Santa Lucia maybe even burrows a little bit more than some of the others. So Yeah, heat treating definitely reduces some of the benefits of the leaves. But I feel like I get good enough results from it that it's not bad, especially because I try to mix the leaves that I use, the dried leaves, with soaked and the pickled leaves that I'm working on. And so you get some nutrients that way. And the pickled leaves, it's a very low oxygen environment. And it's a very wet environment when they're being pickled. It's extremely low oxygen because the idea is you're trying to get CO2 to be produced in there and not allow oxygen in the way that I'm doing it. And so there's a lot of things that can't survive that very low oxygen environment for several weeks. And that seems to be a good way to treat them too. So I probably ought to make a video on that soon. And freezing does kill a lot of things, but I think it kills some beneficial stuff, some non-beneficial stuff. It allows some beneficial and non-beneficial stuff to live. It's pros and cons. And like Tennyson says, yeah, it kills hitchhikers and eggs of most things. I think there are some eggs and hitchhikers that might survive that, but that's the issue. But oh, there you go. If you don't have room in freezers. Yeah, I probably ought to get on that, huh? Okay, and I'm going to give these folks a little bit of bee pollen. That's what I'm feeding today. Might as well, right? Bee pollen's good stuff. Most isopods love a good bit of bee pollen once in a while. So I'm going to put these Santa Lucia back and grab something else. Okay. Keep having to take my microphone off. I'm gonna ask you a question. This sound, this is without the microphone on, then I don't have to keep taking my microphone on and off. If it's crummy sound, then I'll put it back on. But if not, then if it sounds fine, then I'll just keep it this way. Okay. Most folks are telling me the volume is a lot lower. So Laura Philippe has a question. Do you find your isopods actually prefer and therefore choose to eat the fermented leaves first? Good question. I haven't done enough careful observation of how the difference is. I've definitely noticed they like the fermented leaves and will eat them. It seems to be a good thing, but I haven't carefully observed whether, I haven't done preference trials, like controlled preference trials. I've just put them in and noticed, oh yeah, they really go after those fermented leaves. But controlled preference trials is something I haven't done. So Megele Tricoficial, I'm not sure how to say your name, but okay, can you hear me now? Is this better with the microphone? Microphone working? Megele Tricoficial. The blonde ducky species or the blonde rubber duckies? Because I have blonde rubber duckies, but I don't have I've never kept the species. Oh, Laura Taylor, interesting. Sunflower stalk, yeah. The isopod's eating that. So Jake, glad to hear they're doing well. Yeah, you're going to get some fungus gnats almost for sure, things like that. But hopefully they won't be too serious. Ishigaki Island, I've never heard of that one. Theropod hunter, interesting. Okay, good. So we're going to go with the mic then. We're just going to do it. So here, let's see if we can see some. This is my yellow zebra colony. Even the young ones are looking pretty yellow. I'm going to see if I can find some nice yellow individuals. Some are more yellow than others. Anybody hanging out on that right there? No? How about here? Those don't look as yellow. Okay, glad it's working. Alexander, welcome. Okay, blonde rubber duckies. Those, if they're the true rubber duckies that are just the blonde form, no difference in care between those and normal duckies. Miraba, what's the difference between fermented and pickled? Pickled is just sort of my my nickname for it, but it's not exactly wrong because there's different ways to do fermentation. And one of the methods for doing fermentation is the same as making like sauerkraut, which is a form of pickling. And, well, it's not the same. It's very similar to the way of making sauerkraut. So what I do is I put the leaves in a jar, and then I use a pickling lid, which allows gases to escape but not to enter. I use that for making my own sauerkraut, which I do. I've done that for years, which tastes much better than most store-bought sauerkraut. And it's healthier for you because it's got all the, the probiotics in it and whatnot. So, anyway, been experimenting with that, and it does render the leaves seemingly quite edible to isopods, but I haven't quite gotten down the whole process to a point where I can say, this is what I do and this works better than this and whatnot. So I'm still working on that. So I haven't gone public with the information so far, to the degree that I would otherwise. Oh, look, there's some really yellow ones in there. Really nice yellow ones. This needs some leaf litter, so I'm going to get him some of that. Quite low on leaf litter in here. We have walnut trees, so sometimes I get these walnut shells and they will hide in them, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop that in. Kind of like they'll hide in the acorn caps. Some leaf litter. How's their calcium chunk going? They're doing okay with the calcium chunk. So I'm not going to bother to refresh that right now. They've got plenty, but I will refresh their dish with some bee pollen. I covered them all up with leaves. That's not as exciting to watch, is it? Okay. Okay, let's see. Cusval's here. Welcome. We might be able to see some darters. We saw some last time. We'll see. Let's see. So Frank the Tank, yes, I do separate and cull out the other individuals. What this iteration of the yellow zebras represents is I had some zebras that were yellow, but mostly striped. I mean, not striped, like spotted or broken striped. Not like, there's some really nice individuals in here that are really striped. There's one that's pretty yellow and pretty striped, but it's got some broken stripes. I had some striped individuals that were white, and I had some spotted yellow individuals mostly. So I wanted to... So I started to do some selective breeding and added some of the striped stock to get more striped zebras, and so I've been working on that for a few generations, and I do cull these out. I have culled them out fairly recently, and I need to do it again. But yeah, definitely. So I haven't determined any issues with walnut shells. I don't think the shells, once they're clean and empty like that, have a big issue with like juglone. So hasn't been an issue. So Tennyson, I have my camera that I usually use is either my iPad or my iPhone, and that's basically what I use, to be honest. Those two. Let's see. And the microphone, I've used a variety of microphones. I could look it up. I'll have to look it up for you because I don't know what brand this is, but I can check my purchase and let you know what I use, Tennyson, because yeah, you might as well get started on making some videos. That would be cool. I would watch them. But yeah, send me a DM or something so I don't forget. Okay, here are some normal zebras, but these have been culled so that I'm not getting a lot of spotted individuals. See how most of these have nice clean striping on them without gaps? I've been culling them for that purpose. Because a lot of the stock these days, I mean, they're not all perfect in here, but if you look at the average zebra culture and you look at these are cleaner and they'll need some more work, but that's what I'm working on. Just culling them for quality. And I have a random zebra bin where I put the weird stuff, and the ones that are too spotted, and the ones that are strangely pigmented. I get chocolates occasionally, get all that stuff, and I put them there in my zebra random mix. Because I'm mostly interested in producing some nice black and white cream, clean spotted zebras, and then yellow zebras. And I'm not as interested in producing any of those other forms. So that's what I do these days. For a while I just had mostly spotted and striped and yellow, but now my other bin is more of a random. So the chemical produced, Laura Philippe, produced by walnut trees, juglone, I do have to be careful with it in terms of leaf litter. From what I understand, that chemical that can be quite dangerous, and I don't, quite bad for the isopods and whatnot. And so I don't collect a lot of leaf litter from the walnuts, but I do understand that once the walnut leaf has naturally dried, it greatly reduces that. But the walnut hulls, if I'm correct, the hulls that are all black and mushy on the outside of the actual shell have a lot of that in it, and they have some other things in them too. Those could be more dangerous than just the dry shell. The dry shell does not seem to be much of an issue at all. Oh, that sounds like an awesome cross there, Pod Hunter. The ginger zebras and yellow zebras. Oh, Mirva, sorry to hear that. Yeah, COVID's the worst. I've never had the taste or smell issue when I've gotten it, but I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. So juglone, the toxin in walnuts, is toxic to a lot of things. So you do have to be careful with it, but just having some dry shells does not seem to be, the dry walnut shells, not the hulls, but the shells, seems to be fine. Cosval, cohabiting copperheads and garter snakes. I do not know. Never contemplated that. So when the walnut trees dry, when the walnut leaves dry, I was reading a paper, and I don't remember the references or anything, but there was a paper that was talking about how isopods will preferentially go after dried leaves rather than fresh leaves of walnuts and some of their trees, because some of the toxins are greatly reduced once they dry out like that, and so they can safely eat a dried walnut leaf where they wouldn't eat a fresh one or something like that. I hope I'm not misquoting it, but that is my recollection of how that works. And just for reference, I've been doing this stuff with the walnut shells for years and years, without any issues that I can attribute to the walnut shells. So that's why I feel confident in saying that just the dry, empty walnut shells occasionally in with the leaves has not been an issue. I would not dump fresh walnut hulls in there. I wouldn't dump fresh walnut leaves, and I wouldn't feed my isopods leaf litter that had a high proportion of walnut leaves in it even, but I will use those dried shells. So, Tan, red panda and normal panda have different care. Same species, so the care is the same. Got a new crop of little lavas going on here. Gonna dump some more leaf litter in there. The care is exactly the same because they are indeed the same species. There's a few under that, not a lot. These are just checking on the lavas here. Okay. All right. So, Megale Official, I probably messed that up a lot, your name, but, oh, there's Aunt Cindy's skinks, cool. So, when you keep if you keep your blonde red duckies with your magic potion, I would expect that at some future point, a year or two from now, you will regret the decision because you will find that one has outcompeted the other, or at least has begun to outcompete the other. So I wouldn't recommend it. That just tends to be what happens. Sometimes it takes a long time. Occasionally you can avoid it, but in general, if you are mixing isopod species, you're going to find out that they don't do well together over time. So, going for another one. Might as well see how these are doing. I'll put these down. I really like these gasket style. It's not gasket style, but the lid that really clamps down over the end. And then it's got this really fine mesh. I like these. These are from Pedro's Pods, these enclosures. Sent me a couple of them. Try out, and I like how that works out. Okay. I hope that the airplane's not too loud. See, here's something that I like to demonstrate. Some people say, can I just put plain eggshells without crushing them up in my enclosure? I put this in there who knows how long ago. This is kind of a duplication of what Oren did in an isopod zoology book, Oren McMonigal. You can put this stuff in here and they don't really eat it. They don't eat the eggshells. They've been there forever. If you crush them up, they'll eat them. But if you don't, they don't. These are the orange crush. Speaking of crush. Orange crush that Ashley Nebel sent me. Colony's doing pretty well. Some pretty large individuals in there. They're fun. There's quite a few kicking around in here. But they're leaf litter, like I said. I've been behind on giving leaf litter to things. They definitely need some more. So, and there we go. Get some leaf litter going in there. Let's see. Is there a way to speed up baby isopods growing? I have a table at a show about a month from now, and some of the ones I plan to sell are so very small. Well, you can optimize. You can optimize their growth by making sure they have plenty of food and a good moisture gradient and whatnot. If they have unlimited access to high quality food, then they're going to probably grow faster than if they didn't. But other than that, I mean, they're not going to, I don't think there's a way to boost their growth past their natural optimum growth rate, if that makes sense. So Aunt Sandy Skink, good question about rove beetles. I don't supply them. I wonder if I should think about doing that in the future at some point. I don't supply the rove beetles, but they're pretty cool. I wonder, I'm trying to remember if those need to be permitted or not. Supplemental feedings do help with breeding and growth. I agree, Frank. I guess what I'm trying to say is you can optimize by providing high quality food, such as supplemental food. You can't, there's a certain point at which you can't optimize anymore. Like you've already reach the point when they're getting all the nutrients they need in the maximum quantities that they can metabolize in the time given, and they're only going to grow so much faster than if you had one bin with small amounts of high quality food, or worse, small amounts of poor quality food. Then you had another bin that had unlimited high quality food. You definitely see a difference in growth rate, I would say. I mean, I'm almost sure you would, but other than that, you know what I mean? So Magali Official, you can put them together. I mean, if you do put them together, you can add some limestone to the substrate, like prilled lime is what I've been using. Learned that from roach crossing. Prilled lime is a good thing to add to the substrate. I still wouldn't add them together. I wouldn't keep the two species together, but if you're going to do it, then you might as well add that. I mean, it's good for all isopods to have some access to that, and it helps maintain the pH of the substrate. So sandy skinks, I see what you mean. They might be harder to collect than they are to culture. Harder to collect in commercial quantities or saleable quantities even. But yeah, those would be some of the issues. So Laura Taylor, interested in snails for feeding a puffer. Yeah, my understanding is that ram's horn snails can be shipped without a permit because they're basically ubiquitous now. I believe so. I believe I can ship them without issue. So I'm gonna pull out another isopod type here somewhere. I'm gonna see if there's some nice big ones here, though. These are fun. Let's do this. I'm just gonna set a couple of big ones in. If I can find some more large ones. Put them here and let them crawl out, huh? So Melanie, do you do shows? I do. I do shows here and there, just usually 1 or 2 a year, but I do them. How do you prepare for them? Think about doing one for the first time sometimes since some isopods and ivory millipedes are reproducing well. Well, one thing I will say, I'm not going to dissuade you from doing a show. If you want to do a show, definitely do a show. One thing I have noticed, and in the past little while, past couple of years, is that I used to go to a show and be one of the very few people who had a wide selection of isopods. And now I am one of many who has a wide selection of isopods, and to the point where some vendors are not even bringing them anymore because they can't sell them because there's so many other people. It's just sort of the luck of the draw. Like if the first 5 tables you stop at have the isopods you want, you're not going to bother to get to the other side of the show and see who else has what, you know what I mean, to a large extent. So there is that going on now, and so just keep that in mind. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, I'm just saying it's something to consider. And preparing for them, it's quite a lot. Lately I've been using plaster enclosures, plaster deli cups. You know, I pour the plaster and let the plaster harden in the bottom and use that, which I learned from roach crossing, because it allows people to see the isopods. They can't hide, but they also don't stress out because they are up against the surface, and they don't dry out because the plaster retains humidity. So you spray it with water periodically to keep it from drying out, and so you've got a great display during the show, and I prep a whole bunch of those with labels on them, and I can prep them, a week or so in advance if I want to, because with the plaster you don't have to worry so much about some of the other things you might have to worry about. And then you just make sure it doesn't dry out, and then you bring those to the show carefully because you can't tip them. The plaster falls out if you tip them. It doesn't stick to the bottom very well. And it's cool. It works pretty well. I mean, that may be a really short sort of answer, but I hope it helps. What's my favorite isopod to keep? I like a lot of them, I really do, and I'm going to grab a couple more here. But I love Armadillidium gestro, like I showed at the beginning. Probably my favorite to keep. And part of that is because they get so big. Part of that is because they're so brightly colored. They tend to be pretty active in the daytime. They don't breed so fast that you find you just overrun with gestro immediately. They have big litters, but they don't have like a billion litters when they're 3 months old, typically. Excuse me. And so I love them. I think they're great. It's hard to pick a favorite isopod, but that might be it. These are my Cali mixes, California mix. This is a true Lavis form. You have this is almost like a peachy milkback form, the wild type form. They have white ones that show up in here. Orange ones show up in here. Let's see what else we've got here. There's a bigger white one. There's some smaller ones. There's another peachy milkback, which is not really a milkback. They look like peachy milkbacks. There's one that doesn't really fit into any category right there. Darker one. I don't know what to call that. They have some pied individuals in here. So many different looks to them. A lot of variety. Let's see, there's some more. What do we got here? The most common that I see are the oranges, well, not the oranges. The whites. Well, in another culture I have that has probably some oranges in it, which is not. I don't offer that as a California mix because it's not anymore, because I added oranges to it. But it has a lot of oranges, and it has a lot of whites and a lot of wild types, and some of the others too that I just mentioned. You see a lot of interesting variation in it. It's kind of cool. Let's see, nobody under there right now. Okay, I'm going to add some leaf litter because obviously it needs some in here. Just checking where we are, everybody. So I think Wally did do at least one on prepping for a show. And it was a good one. I think he did it, at least one of them, in conjunction with IsoBuddies. And they talked about what you should do for a show, and there was some great stuff in there. So let's see. Have I ever considered keeping copperheads? That one is off the table because when the house rules is nothing medically significant, and even though copperheads are not as dangerous as some others, they definitely count as a medically significant snake. So Melanie, in northern Nevada, if you only have one vendor selling isopods, it might be more worth it for you then. Laura Taylor, you could just scuff the bottom of the cup or super glue a couple of pieces of something in the bottom of the container for the plaster to grab onto. I have been thinking, doing thought experiments about how to do that. So those are good ideas. It's something to try out. And I've been thinking about like using hot glue beads in 3 little places in this circle up against the plastic to make sure it pins it down, and various things. I like your idea of the super glue on the bottom. That's worth a shot too. The main thing is the more you touch it, because you're doing tons of these, the more steps you add, the more time you add, and you might adding a step that takes 3 seconds to do with each cup, but if you're doing 100 cups, it starts getting longer. So those are good ideas and are worth experimenting with. But anything that's fast is probably a good idea. Mix almonds with my calcium. I wouldn't mix nuts with your calcium just because nuts tend to have certain compounds in them, the nuts themselves, that can be toxic to invertebrates. So I'm not saying it won't work, but I was saying I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it. A lot of people like Gestroy, sounds like, huh? Well, people after my own heart. Gestroy are super cool. Let's see what else we got here. I'm just, No, that one looks like it's okay. It doesn't need anything. been trying to take care of these, you know, while I've been sick. It's not like I haven't been taking care of things. I have. I'm just doing it. I've been chipping away, and I feel like it's a drop in the bucket. It's not really, because I'm getting stuff done. Do I have the zingers? I do. Would you like to see some zingers? I would love to show you some zingers. See how the zingers are doing. The zingers are really cool, and I love the wild types and I love the zingers. I love them both. Here's my magic potions. Some of my magic potions. I have 2 bins of magic potions, as you might have seen in my video, my recent video about these. These are the Pure Line American magic potion. So I think when people talk about isopods chewing on their animals when they're sitting still, I think there are a lot of things to consider. Because I have stuck my hands into certain isopod bins. One of them that I can think of would be, I think they reclassified them as Pseudoornatus, Porcellio pseudoornatus, I think. The yellow dots, that's one, and some other things. A lot of it has to do with conditions. When isopods start chewing on something moving and alive, like a human hand or a reptile in there, they are probably really, really hungry. They might also need more hydration, and they're probably not in a proper environment, and so the environment may need to be adjusted. It is possible that they're also overcrowded, and that could be both of those things going on. So if they are chewing on the reptiles like that, you either have way too many isopods in the enclosure, or there are not enough natural foods for the isopod to be eating, or both. So I would definitely say that's something to consider. It may not be in all cases, but in many cases that's probably what's going on. Look at all the yellow on that guy, on these guys, especially the big ones. As they get bigger, they show more yellow. Love it. It's like highlighter yellow too. So gorgeous. So these are the only true magic potions, our American line of magic potions. We ought to call the Japanese line actually Japanese Dalmatian. That would be a more correct name. Because these were named magic potions because they were line bred for increased yellow coloration. The Japanese line weren't. And they're gorgeous little isopods, the Japanese ones, don't get me wrong. But they're smaller in size, they breed more quickly typically. They have less yellow coloration, and they're not so they're not the same thing. So these are the American line, or just the true magic potion. And now I'm going to grab the I'm going to add some leaf litter to this. I think looks like it could do with a little bit, and then we'll get some gestro. I recently split this. I don't know if I mentioned that already. Did a video where I split this magic potion into 2 bins, the magic potion culture. This comes from Kyle Candillian, Roach Crossing, it was back in November of last year. And they do breed slowly, but they've been breeding pretty steadily. So I have quite a few babies. Gonna grab those gestro. One second. Having to move the microphone. Oh goodness. I zoomed in on the container. That's not very exciting, is it? Okay. So it looks like these are getting a little thirsty because you see a whole bunch of these gestro in the moss, which is not dry, which is good. You can see it's already damp. I'm going to moisten it up quite a little bit so that it starts moistening up more of the enclosure. Gestroy for Armadillidium do like it quite moist, typically. I mean, they like their dry areas too, but I see almost all of them in the moss. So that is a sign I need to moisten up the rest of the substrate, because look at this. Flip this over, usually see a lot of them. There's just one, because they're all gathered in the moss over here. So definitely need to add a little bit more moisture to the enclosure. They really do like quite a bit of moisture. And it's funny because with most species of anything, I'm not a fan of any kind of mutation that reduces or removes coloration. But these axanthics, which I'm assuming that's what's going on, in axanthic, it's removing any sort of yellow coloration from these. See, there's a whole bunch of them right there. Removing the yellow coloration, I really like what it does. It's fun. I'm not saying I like them better than the wild types, but I think I like them just as much, which is unusual for me. Quite unusual. So I'm going to give them, check their calcium, make sure they have, oh, you know, this is when I know I need to give them a little bit more calcium. Here's the piece of cuttlebone I gave them last time, and it's flat and thin. They've cleaned it up. I'm going to leave it in there, but I'm going to add them a nice thick chunk of, that's what it's looked like when I put it in. And they cleaned off all the softer calcium on there, so putting that in along with some bee pollen, of course. Yeah, one of them really got soaked, but I find that the gestroy really don't mind it as much as some of the others. Like Klugi, I really hate that, being soaked, but the gestroy don't really mind that much. I think they're from wetter areas. And yeah, I love these squirty bottles. They're like eye irrigation bottles for medical emergencies when you get something in your eye. I think that's what they're sold for. And they hold 500 milliliters or so, the ones that I have. And I have a few of these around, at least 2, maybe 3 of them I use for irrigating various enclosures. Isopods, not limited to isopods, but let's see. Leaf types that are okay for isopods. Well, Casval, I use a whole bunch of different types. I think there might be some lists out there, but I have just avoided the ones that may contain some toxins. Like I avoid cherry. Maybe dried cherries are fine, maybe not, but I avoid them even though I have cherry trees. But I've used apple, redbud, willow, yellowwood, calorie pear, maple, oak, sea grape, magnolia. There are lots of others that I've used, I'm sure. I'm trying to think of what else. Did I say apple already? Hawthorn. There's plum. So many. What would I recommend for Mardi Gras isopods in terms of enclosure? They like a big mossy spot. They like it cool. They like some protein. I have had better luck with the BC maple than with the Mardi Gras though myself. It's the same species, but I don't know if that's just the luck of the draw or whatever, but that's what I have had. Mulberry is a good one. I wish I have like 2 tiny little mulberry trees in the yard that aren't even, they're just volunteers that showed up. They're way too small. I wish they were 10 times bigger or 20 times bigger. I would use lots of mulberry leaves. Why is my alarm keep going off? Oh, okay, now I see why. That means we have 5 more minutes. That's gone pretty fast. I feel like. Let's see, I'm gonna grab something else here. What else should I grab isopod wise? I'm sure I got something we can look at. I feel like sometimes I grab the same isopods from one live stream to the next. Sometimes I do that. It's just kind of what's available and so on, but that's a thing, I guess. I'm going to add some more leaf litter here. This definitely needs it. These are my Montenegro, Kluga Montenegro, lots of them. I actually need to do a live stream in which I cull these, separate the small spots from the normals, and maybe separate some of the really big splotchy ones, because there's a lot going on. But see, some of these have the tiniest little spots, and some of them have normal spots, and I'm trying to figure that out. Let's figure out what's going on here. There's a whole bunch more under this piece of wood. Some that basically have no spots at all in here. One snake. Can I do one snake? Probably. Here. Let me just add, I'm almost out of leaf litter again. Just cooked up a bunch, but there we go. Okay. I added some anyway. I think we can do a snake before we go. Let me figure this out here. Logistically, make this work. How many of you saw the live stream last week with the snakes? Let's see. Getting the microphone set up here. Okay. Let me move this over to the snake enclosure. Do I recommend a certain flavor for mourning geckos of Pangea? I've used a lot of different ones. I think I use the fig one most often for mine. Look at these dirty guys. They need a bath. But let's see if we can find... It shows up so much on the black ones when they've been courting, which is awesome. But it makes them... They tend to be messier because they're sitting on each other all the time. When they poop, when they don't poop. They're crowding the female. Here she is. I was thinking she might be gravid, and now I know she's not because the males are courting her like crazy lately in the last week or so. So let's hope that she does get gravid. A fall clutch would be magnificent. That's what I was hoping for this whole time, that we could get a later clutch out of her. So we're going to try for it. It's not too late. It's not too late. Which species of leaf do you find that your isopod's favorite? Good question. I give him so many different kinds. He's like, oh, you got food for me? Is that what you're doing? I don't know. What are your isopod's favorite leaves, folks? Oh yeah, I should do some more jumping spider videos. I got a new little one that landed on a book that we were reading outside. It was really metallic looking. So I want to see what it turns out to look like. I think that would be super cool. Look at those faces. This is a very temporary setup for them, but we've got a cork round or cork log, humid hide, there's a water dish, there's a non-humid hide, they knocked the lid off, so I have to fix that. Then we've got other hides here, more cork bark and other bark. I think this is maybe pine bark or something that's aged. So yeah. Hopefully we get some babies out of everybody. Keep your fingers crossed. We get some babies out of these guys this fall. That would be fantastic. And it is about time to call it a live stream. So thank you everybody for joining in. I appreciate it. Hope to catch you next time. And be sure to catch the next video on Friday. It's another Oh wait, it's a first Friday feeding. I won't ruin the surprise by telling you what I'm feeding. Something I don't recall ever having done a first Friday feeding video about this one that I'm doing. So thank you everyone, and catch you soon.